Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Ha, Rekakwadash Mama. Double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone, the GMS, and the elders. Double honors to my elder as well, Aharawan, Ben Yasha Allah, the Lions Den Camp. And salutations to the fellow Akim, Awafim, and children that believe in truth and in sincerity. It's your brother Adhan Allah, back to another lesson, and Yaharatazah is edifying. I just got a couple of scriptures lined up pertaining to the Edomite that came up upon the camp, pre-camp, and had the subtle dispute, all right, debate, whatever you want to call it, with our elder. And pretty much our elder was just telling him how he was wasting his time, going around marching, trying to ask for rights, all right, and marching for rights because they had this little march around the camp site Saturday, to where they were fighting for the rights of Moab, all right, the so-called Chinese, biblically known as, or what the Lord called them, the nation of Moab, all right. They were fighting for rights and marching for rights pertaining to a bill that Ron DeSantis is trying to push across as far as anybody who's leaving those nations, quote unquote, Brics nations, which was all spiritual, because when he named the nations, that's what it all came about. All right. Anybody who disagree with those governments, basically the Brics nations, and come over to the Americas, being that America is a melting pot, and that's what it was set up to be, and it still is. They can't own land. And our elder was just like, why, man? They always setting up laws and decrees to deprive people of their natural right as human beings, man, of procreating, of having farmland and being people, man. All right. And that's why what Psalms 94 and 20 states what it states. And I'm going to get that right quick. You know how this devil has to get completely uprooted. All right. Because he rules in wickedness through his system to a point where we don't have to walk around with yokes of iron upon our necks anymore. His system does his prejudice acts for him, all right, which is, the system is called racism. But this is Psalms 94 and verse 20. Shall the throne of iniquity have fellowship with thee, which frameth mischief by a law? They gather themselves together against the soul of the righteous and condemn the innocent blood. And that's the point. No matter what they marching for, they all marching to come against the children of Israel pertaining to Psalms 83. They make a pact against the children of Israel, just speaking on Moab and how they hurry up and buy, as our elder was reiterating to him, and how that's the demographics, that's the spiritual tone here in America, in Babylon the Great, to where the heathen, they take pride and they have they make big business and big merchandise over the Lord's people, man, along with Esau, Edom. All right. And that's why Esau, Edom is marching with them, helping them to their pertaining to their cause. All right. Because really, when I thought about it, it was like, damn, he named all the Brics nations. So you can't, if you disagree with that government, which is in American eyes, they would look at that of being rightfully so. But if you come to America and join them, they still don't want to trust you because they have that's a way of having what America, not America, but Russia, Iran, Syria, China, Venezuela, all these nations to have a so-called quote unquote small embassy here in America by way of owning lands, corporations, whether it's a house or anything like that. All right. You can have, these foreigners come to the shores of America, man, and infiltrate, so to speak. All right. One scripture I wanted to bring out pertaining to that thought was Jeremiah chapter 51. And I'll start at verse 1. Thus saith the Lord, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, behold, I will raise up against Babylon and against them that dwell in the midst of them that rise up against me, a destroying wind. And that's what the Lord is preparing, and that's what we're witnessing. He's preparing these nations to get mad and ultimately build that disdain against America. All right. Who some of them, America was once their allies, but not anymore. All right. And he's building up these other heathen nations pertaining to Ezekiel 38 and various other scriptures to be up under the guidance and the stewardship of Russia and China. All right, Russia being the muscle, the military, the teeth of the new revamped system that the Lord is going to be with for a temporal time, to do his will, to do his bidding, to establish the kingdom of heaven. All right, to establish and usher in his son and establish the nation of Israel at the end of the day, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. All right, but he's going to use Russia, all right, being the teeth, the military might of this new Brics alliance, all right, and these Brics nations, and China is going to be the financier, and that's what we're witnessing. All right, but they're marching the streets, trying to get rights to buy land and own land here in America once they leave those nations. All right, and you have Ron DeSantis, who is pretty much kind of a true American, you would call them. You know, the Republicans, so to speak, where they would try to create a bill to stop that because they see the collapse, man. You know, the feet being mixed with miry clay, in other words. But this is Jeremiah chapter 51 and verse 2. And I will send unto Babylon fanners that shall fan her and shall empty her land, for in the day of trouble they shall be against her round about, man. And that's the point. You know, the Lord is going to send Babylon fanners, man. We go into that term, fanners, here in Jeremiah 51 and verse 2. H21:14.
Strong's H21:14.
Zoar, all right, to be strange, be a stranger, to become estranged, you know, a foreigner, all right? So he's going to ultimately bring the enemy, the foreigners, to empty this land, all right? The true stranger, the true Gentile, all right? Not the stranger that is spoken of in Isaiah 14, being the Israelite foreigners, you know, that's going to be provoked to jealousy. But the true Gentile stranger, all right, here is speaking of as pertaining to the fanner in Jeremiah 51 and verse 2, that shall fan her and shall empty her land, man. And that's what we're witnessing. That's what we're going to witness and continue to witness as America continues to go down that path of a decline. All right, the collapse of the dollar, the collapse of our economy, the famine comes into a play. The hyperinflation gets more hyperinflated. All right, it's going to be more of that to where it's going to cause the heathen to go back to their long home. All right, as is prophesied in the scriptures. And this is Jeremiah chapter 51 and verse 3. Against him that bendeth, let the archer bend his bow, and against him that lifteth himself up in his brigandine, and spare ye not her young men, destroy ye utterly all her hosts. Thus the slain shall fall in the land of the Chaldeans. And right, and this is the land, one of the lands of the Chaldeans, the mainland, as they use this land being the hammer, all right, as the corporation. All right, but now they're done with this corporation. They're ready to close shop and liquidate. And that's what you have going on, to where even it's so much so into a liquidation to where you have the talks of China owning parts of California. You know, these people owning parts of America, the actual land, the actual soil. So they're trying to stop and create bills for actual individuals that come over, as far as foreigners, and being a melting pot to come over here and not be able to live the quote unquote American dream, which once was open and you know, for them to receive, man, for them to be able to do. All right. It's just like the critical race theory and how they're trying to take and retract the teachings of what they once taught out of the school pertaining to their wicked doings, the iniquity, the touching of the apple of the Lord's eye, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. All right. And calling it ultimately what? History. All right. You know, so on and so forth. You know, thinking that the Lord allowed them to do that, and as it's not a crime amongst humanity, you know, and that there eventually is going to have to pay for it. And that's why the elder was saying to the Edomite at camp that, hey, We had our time to drink up the cup, all right, and we wasn't supposed to drink of it. In other words, roughly paraphrasing. And now it's time for Esau to get it.
Talk about that. Rights for them. Look at that small group. What do they need? You know, they've been feeding our people GMOs for years in the neighborhoods, feeding us rat, cat, and dog, getting our people killed. I got robbed in one of their stores one day, and they people just looked at me. Just like the brother got killed in their store.
The only thing I'd ask
so they want to talk about rights?
The only thing I'd ask you is to think about, how you differentiate different people. Let's not all group everybody. Let's not all group everybody and assume that because this person looks that way.
Yeah, fair enough. I agree. But I'm saying when you talk about a group, a community of people, when you say stand up for the rights, you're talking about a community of people. Right?
Well, actually, for this particular bill, if you want to know what it's about, it targets people who are immigrants from specific countries of interest, which are Iran, North Korea, Syria, Venezuela, China, and Russia. So if you don't agree with that government, and you want to leave that government, you want to come here to the United States, you can't own land, not in the state of Florida. Why not?
Why not? It's a free world, man.
Well, we have laws that apply to protect every.
Hey, they're scared now. They're scared now. They don't know where the treason would come from, where the infiltration would come from. But this is a country that has an embassy amongst every country, amongst every nation throughout the four corners of the earth. But now when it's going to come back and bite them in their own ass, they want to create laws and policies and things like that so it don't happen to them. Again, he basically stated all the Brics nations and their alliances. So it's becoming a conflict of interest, so to speak. You can simply have, Russians and all those nations, people come over here. And if they buy land, they can manipulate, so to speak, manipulate the system. They can actually be over here in the Americas, in Babylon the Great, and create treason. All right. Do things, pertaining to prophecy, EMPs, things like that. All right. Actually have bases and homes, small embassies, quote unquote, here on the shores of America, So this is the Lord's will. This is America is done. All right. And this is the Lord's will. And this was what he's setting up and he's coming to do. All right. And Esau feel it. He see what's coming into play. And this is Ecclesiastes chapter 12. And I'll start at verse 5. Well, I'll start at verse 4. And the door shall be shut in the streets when the sound of the grinding is low. And he shall rise up at the voice of the bird. And all the daughters of music shall be brought low. Right. And we in those times. All right. The grinding is ceasing. There shall be no more work for Egypt. All right. It's as much as they talk about how the economy is trying to stay afloat, it's in a bad position, man. It's a lot of people out of here with no jobs, trying to make ends meet. All right. And this is the pressure eventually building up and eventually pressure bust pipes, man. Verse 5. And the daughters of music brought low, not typically the daughters of music being those who are in the entertainment industry. All right. But even they are being brought low, getting judged. All right. The Jamie Foxxes on his deathbed. The rappers that die week in and week out. All right. It's about 2 to 3 of them die a week. All right. So on and so forth, man. There's judgment in the air. Not only the music industry or entertainment industry, but just those who add on to the music of this place in general, man. Who love Egypt, the second Egypt, that is. Who love the first. All right. Because you love the first, you go love the second one. All right. So who loved Egypt? Who love the rat race? And running and being the best slave they can be at their jobs, taking pride in that, and they not taking pride in Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, in his work, in his will. All right. They're going to be brought low. All right. The daughters of music. Verse 5. Also, when they shall be afraid of that which is high, and fear shall be in the way, and the almond tree shall flourish. Right. The prophecies, one of the earliest tree to spring out and spring forth is the almond tree. All right. And it start to get those little cloudy buds before the almonds spring forth. And the grasshopper shall be a burden, like any little thing that's gonna cut the tension. when it comes to the judgment and when it comes to prophecy, when it comes to this place, all right, it's so anything is gonna be a burden in bringing this place down, man. All right, that's how tight it's gonna get spiritually. All right, that's how you're gonna be able to cut the tension when you walk out the door. All right, because we in those times. And desire shall fail, because men goeth to his long home, man. And that's one of the points I wanted to make, man. Men's going to his long home, man. Even those who came over here to live the American dream, all right? Those who came over here as foreign exchange students, who got the piece of the American pie, who went to school and collected a lot of debt. Those same individuals are mad because they took the piece of the pie when they look at the cards that they was dealt. All right, now they're Americanized. They done lost their culture about them as far as what kept them. You know, they go back to their country. They're being looked at differently. You know, in a sottish way. You know how we look at our people. You know, 2/3 of our people. You know, they're sottish children. They're wicked. All right, they're unclean. The whole head is sick. You know, and they go back amongst their people. Yeah, they might have money, they might have substance, but they might have took upon this demonocracy. They might be a part of the alphabet community. Things like that, to where where they're from in their country, they're not for that. They're against it. All right. So this is what you have here, man. It's going to lead to what? 2nd Ezra 15. All right. Jacob's trouble, man. People hitting the streets of America. All right, as it says, man, and the mourners go about to the streets, man. So what? Man goeth to his long home, and the mourners go about to the streets, man. All right. Every man flocking to his kind, or every bird, so to speak, flocking to their kind. All right. So he mentioned the Brics nations. You know, another scripture I want to get is Daniel chapter 2 and verse 40, just to get straight to the point. You know, and it's speaking on the ancient Roman Empire, but as the ancient Roman Empire, so is the modern day revamped Roman Empire. All right, as there's no new thing under the sun. And this is Daniel 2 and 40. And the 4th kingdom shall be strong as iron, for as much as iron breaketh in pieces and subdueth all things, right? You know, it's going to be iron, hard as iron, to where it subdue the previous kingdoms before it. All right, this is the 4th kingdom speaking on the Roman infrastructure, the Roman Empire, which is what bruised and later revamped through the Treaty of Rome, which you have today by way of America, all right, NATO and the EU, this beast-like infrastructure, all right, this beast-like system where America sits on the scarlet-colored beast with the golden cup in her hand, all right. And as iron that breaketh all these shall it break in pieces and bruise. And whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of potter's clay and part iron, right? And that's pretty much what's happening. All right, this is the times that we're in, where we're seeing the feet and the toes, all right, ultimately representing what? The ancient Roman infrastructure of the 10 common markets of Rome, which today represents the 10 toes, all right, the alliances that this place have, which is now is more than 10, but it ultimately stems from the 10. You know, but ultimately those allies, those same 10 is going to turn around and hate the whore as prophesied. So again, as much as this iron is going to be mixed with miry clay, you know, meaning what? It's gonna have a just like Bob Marley, all right, who was a so-called Caucasian man, all right, by way of his father's father, all right, he had cancer in the foot, all right, Esau's go have cancer in the foot, all right, these kingdoms, all right, this leading from the first all the way to the 4th being a Roman infrastructure, and what came after that, which leads up to the day, all right, the revamped Roman infrastructure, Babylon the Great, Rome reincarnated. Hey, at the feet, man, the Lord is going to take it at the feet. All right, it's gonna be without the feet, the foundation of it, everything else go to shit. All right, so it's gonna have that foot cancer, so to speak, man. It's gonna spread, to where it's not gonna be able to stand. It's gonna fall. All right, again, the kingdom divided shall not stand, but have an end. And this is Daniel 2:41. And whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of potter's clay and part iron, the kingdom shall be divided, but there shall be in it of the strength of the iron, for as much as thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay. And as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken, man, right? And partly strong and partly broken is not a solid foundation, man. That's that untempered mortar that eventually is gonna turn soggy and rent them. All right, it's gonna come to naught. Verse 43, and whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay, right? They're not going to ever come to a true agreement in the alliance, man, because it's broken up, man. It's not real, all right? It's ultimately going to come to what? The fanners, those foreigners, to empty the land, man, for America to be booties unto them, man. Booties, you think of the loot, all right? Substance, man. You're going to be substance to these other nations, ultimately to the nation of Israel. But I'm going to end off with the book of Habakkuk, chapter 2, in verse 3. For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come. It will not tarry, right? These nations, the 10 shall hate the whore. Ultimately coming up against America, complete in its totality, and the America coming to its end, man. Being obsolete when it comes to what the dollar, all right, the collapse of this economy coming to an end, all right. That's what we're waiting on. That's what we're hastening, man. Though it tarry, wait for it. That's what the patience of the saints, all right. Let's let patience have a perfect works pertaining to that, Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come. It will not tarry. Behold, his soul, which is lifted up, is not upright in him, but the just shall live by his faith, man, right? The just shall live by his faith. Yet also, because he transgresseth by Rhine, he is a proud man, right? His philosophies that he put throughout the four corners of the earth, his demonocracy, how you can do as thou wilt, that way didn't work. Even these other nations seeing that, to where they saying the hell with America. They're not in prosperity following America's ways. Why? Because America's ways is not upright, man. You don't get prosperity in the way of this devil. The spirit of this devil ain't upright in him, man. The Lord ain't dealt with him like that. So when it even comes to the heathen nations, man, they don't get no type of prosperity in their way, dealing with this devil. Shall not all these take up a parable against him, and a taunting proverb against him, and say, woe to him that increaseth that which is not his? How long? And to him that laddeth himself with thick clay, man. You go into that term clay, it means depth, and he put himself in depth throughout the four corners of the earth, and that's why he owes everybody. Everybody coming over here and wanting to fanner, empty this land, take all they can take, get whatever they can get. Why? Because it's in liquidation, man. It's for things are 70% off, because America is done away with, man, by way of our Lord Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai. According to Daniel 4:17, the Lord Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai, he ruleth in the kingdom of men. He giveth to whoever so he will. And right now, America is done away with, and he's getting ready to raise up these heathen nations, these brick nations, ultimately to do his bidding. All right, his right, and to help usher in that righteous indignation. All right, so he can put Israel on top, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. Shalom, Habatah, Yaharatazah. This lesson was edifying. DTA. To the next one.